Los Angeles isn't new to the Olympics. In 1984, the city hosted one of the most successful Olympic Games in history, bringing global attention, pride, and celebration to the city. Now, more than 40 years later, Los Angeles is preparing to do it again in 2028, once again stepping onto the world stage. From the outside, Los Angeles is often shown as a city of opportunity, entertainment, and global culture. But beneath that, a different reality exists. In Los Angeles County, tens of thousands of people experienced homelessness according to the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority. A large portion of them are unsheltered, living in tents, vehicles, or directly on the street. The city has promised to address homelessness before the games, but housing 70,000 people in 2 years is a goal even the mayor admits is far from meeting. When a city has a deadline, a global spotlight, and the legal power to move people out of sight, what happens to a person's right to exist in a public space? To help us understand that question, we spoke with Jamel Mason, a former Olympian who competed for Puerto Rico. When you think back to your time in the Olympics, could you explain what the Olympic spirit was to you?
Yeah, I think the Olympic spirit is a combination of everything. I think at the heart of it, there is the sport, of course. There is this, who is the best athlete out there? Outside of that, and the bigger picture of it is like this coming together of nations, of cultures, of people from all over the world, and being able to celebrate together and just kind of, mingle in a time where we probably wouldn't all be together.
The Olympics have also served as a setting where athletes have drawn attention to social and political issues. We asked Mason about the games as a platform. So we've seen athletes becoming more vocal about social issues in recent years. What role do you think the 2028 competitors play in the story of Los Angeles civil rights?
Yeah, I mean, the Olympics is a space where they often don't want you to be political, but it is the perfect place to get your message across because the world is watching. And I think that anybody who chooses to speak up on those issues is brave. I mean, we saw it in just the Winter Olympics. We saw athletes speaking out, and I think that really brings people together in a certain kind of way because when you don't stand up for those rights or things, especially like for the people that don't have, I think you give voice to a whole community, a generation, and I think it's really important.
That platform reaches a global audience for a fixed period of time. Preparing to host that audience is often associated with large-scale construction. Los Angeles organizers and city officials have stated the 2028 Games will rely largely on venues that already exist, which is generally reported to lower the cost of hosting compared with past games. That is one possibility for resources the city is not spending on construction. It is not a stated plan. What Los Angeles has done ahead of 2028 is documented elsewhere, and how the city responds to people living on its streets. The city has previously used the word cleaning to describe moving encampments. Does that word sit right with you, or does it feel like we're talking about people like they're litter?
Yeah, great question. I don't like the word cleaning when talking or referring to like human beings. I think we can talk about cleaning trash that's, on our streets, or, making sure our landscaping is pretty, and cleaning using that term in that way. But when it comes to actual people, human beings, I don't think that that's probably the most appropriate word to use.
Cleanup is also a term used in public discussion of encampment policy. The legal framework governing that policy has changed in recent years. For most of the last decade, a federal court ruling protected people sleeping outside. The rule was straightforward. If a city didn't have a shelter bed available for someone, it couldn't punish them for sleeping in public. It was considered cruel and unusual, a violation of the 8th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. In practical terms, that meant cities like Los Angeles couldn't simply clear an encampment. They had to offer somewhere to go first. That changed in June 2024. The Supreme Court took up a case called Grant Pass v. Johnson, named after a small Oregon city that had been ticketing homeless residents for sleeping outdoors. The court ruled 6-3 that those tickets were not cruel and unusual. That ruling didn't force any city to do anything, but it gave every city across the country a new tool, the ability to fine, ticket, or arrest people for sleeping in public, whether shelter is available or not. Mayor Bass publicly opposed the Grants Pass ruling the day it came down. Her statement, "Today's Supreme Court ruling must not be used as an excuse for cities across the country to attempt to arrest their way out of this problem." The effect was almost immediate. A nonprofit newsroom called Cal Matters tracked the data in 35 California cities and counties. In the next 6 months after the ruling, arrests of homeless people in Los Angeles jumped 68%. In San Diego, they doubled. In Sacramento, they nearly tripled. LA City's Attorney's Office maintains that LA hasn't changed its enforcement in response to Grants Pass. The 68% jump in arrests, in their telling, is from other factors. 50 cities in 3 counties across California passed new ordinances targeting encampments, most of them in the years leading up to LA's hosting of the FIFA World Cup, the Super Bowl, and the Olympics.
¿Ha visto campamentos o limpiezas alrededor de su negocio recientemente?
¿Campamentos?
Sí.
Sí, hay campamentos y si vienen como una vez al mes, vienen a clean it up, pero a veces 1 or 2 days later, sometimes hours later, they come back.
That is one business owner's account of what they have observed in their area over time. It describes a reoccurring pattern, removal followed by return. We asked Mason what he hopes for the 2028 games.
My hope would be, if we were to relocate them away from the venues, that there is another place for them to go, right? I hope that we're not just taking their stuff and making them go somewhere and not providing another place for them to go or another solution. So I would hope in doing that we have some sort of resource, again, especially since we're not having to build totally new infrastructure, that part of the proceeds that we make from the Olympics could help solve some of those problems. In 2028, the world will turn its attention to Los Angeles. Will it see the city as it is, or the city as it wants to be seen?